Good evening and welcome to the start of the school committee meeting for May 26, 2022. I am Superintendent Carol Kevin, and I'm presiding over the beginning of the meeting because this is our annual reorganization. And so in accordance with school committee policy BDA, what we will do is elect a chair for a one-year term. After we have a chair in place, we will hand the meeting over to the chair, who will help us in the proceedings to elect a vice chair. So the way this works is that we will take a nomination. The nomination does not have to be seconded. And once we have a nomination through a roll call vote, if someone gets a majority of the votes, that person will then effectively become the chair of the school committee for the 22-23 school year. Okay, you good? All right then. So at this time, I am happy to take nominations for chair of the Hopkinton School Committee.
I'd like to nominate Nancy to continue on in her role as chair.
Okay, so we will now take a roll call vote. So I'll start over there with you, Holly, and we'll work our way back toward Nancy.
I vote yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Holly. Appreciate the confidence.
That's great. And I will hand things right over to you, Nancy. Thank you.
So then I would seek a nomination for the vice chair of the school committee.
I nominate Amanda if she wants to remain in that position. More than happy to. The two of you have navigated COVID so well and gotten us through some rough years. So if you're willing,
I'm happy to do that.
Then let's do a roll call starting with Holly.
Let's do it. Yes.
Aye.
And I am also an aye. So we are now reorganized for the 2022-2023 school year. And with that, I would seek a motion to enter into executive session to comply with or act under the authority of MGL C30A 21A3, specific to conducting strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with the HTA Unit C, because having the discussion in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the school committee's bargaining position. And also B, to comply with or act under the authority of MGL C30A 21A3, specific to the review of executive session minutes for the meetings of September 2nd, 2021, October 7th, 2021, October 21st, 2021, November 2nd, 2021, and November 8th, 2021, and then to reconvene in regular session.
So moved.
Okay, so motion by Leah,
Second.
second by Amanda. We'll do a roll call because we're going into executive session. I'll start
Aye.
down. Holly,
Yes.
Jen, Leah,
Aye.
Amanda.
Aye.
I am also an aye, and we are going into executive session at 6:04.
got links. Oh, what a great idea. Does it?
Sorry, I'm just trying to pull something up. Okay. So good evening and welcome back. We have just returned from the our executive session, and we will now move to the open session of our Thursday, May 26th meeting. I would ask those here in the studio, which is actually just us, to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I just, before we start our meeting, just wanted to have a moment of silence to recognize the victims in the school shooting in Texas earlier this week, and just to think about our thoughts being with the families and the entire community, and realizing that it's a tragedy for their school, but also for all schools to have that kind of fear. So. Thank you. I know there's also right now on the town common an event going on to reflect and to remember on that as well. But so we are here, and welcome to our new members. It is great to have a full committee again. There is no public here, so we do not actually have anyone here for public comment, but I think we could move into recognitions. I don't know if you have any.
No, not tonight, thank you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other recognitions? Okay. Then that moves us into reports. We do not have student council members here with us tonight, but we do have the superintendent.
Yes, and I hope that at our next meeting we'll be introduced to our new student council members, so that will be exciting. All right, so I will just run through the superintendent's report, and you'll see that there's lots of just dribs and drabs of kinds of exciting things going on.
That would not be exciting.
Let's start with what's on top of mind for many of our sixth graders. We did have a flood in the basement of Hopkinton Middle School this week. You can see it's the eye wash station that you see on the right-hand side. If you looked at it from the side view, where you see the corrosion in that pipe, that's actually the place where all of that water leaked from. So when you think about how much water was in the basement of the middle school, it was really about 3 or 4 inches of water kind of consistently. I know that people are saying, is it a rumor, or was the elevator shaft filled with water? And it was about 4 feet high in the elevator shaft, so there was an awful lot of water there. We immediately brought in Service Master and the fire department, so even as early as Tuesday afternoon, it was pretty well drained. But and the dehumidifiers have now stopped kind of pulling water, so we're sure that it's a lot drier down there. But we do know that some of the classrooms are going to have to be gutted. We're waiting to hear from the insurance adjuster whether or not we'll be able to re-inhabit any of those rooms before the end of the school year. So I know the kids are believing that they're never going back down this year, but the jury is sort of still out on that.
How many rooms are in the basement?
I think there were 6 rooms in total. All right. We also have many people who are asking about the roofing projects. And even before I start talking about that, I do want to say thank you to people, because I feel like it has been a challenge at Hopkins and at the middle school. We've had, people on the roofs, and it makes an awful lot of noise. And even though we're using a low VOC glue adhesive up on the roof, it still has a very, very strong smell. And so, I know that teachers have had the windows open, we've got vents working, but you can smell it pretty significantly, I think, on some days, not every day. Just so you know, the flat roofing areas on both the middle school and Hopkins are complete. Hopkins is in a little bit better shape right now than the middle school. Right now, Hopkins only has a little bit of flashing around the edge of the roof that needs to be complete. At the middle school, any of the protrusions that come up through that roof, so any of the vents, any plumbing, any of those kinds of things, they're still working on all of that flashing around those pieces. The really good news is that substantial completion is projected before the end of next week. The target date is May 31st, which I think is Wednesday. Tuesday. So that would be the goal. There'll still obviously be a punch list, so you'll still see roofers kind of coming and going. But the great news is that the real distraction should be stopped at the middle of next week. So that's really good news to hear. All right, just a quick update on math instruction because a lot of great things have been going on. Earlier this week, all of the curriculum teacher leaders at each one of the grade levels, K to 5, so 6 people in total, met with Assistant Superintendent Jen Parson and our math curriculum director, Shelley Moran. And so what they're really looking at is, when we have all of our common assessments in math, are we sure that as we implement them, we're implementing them with some kind of consistency? And as teachers are assessing them, are they doing that with inter-rater reliability? So that was some of the work that was done with the CTLs today at Elmwood. Our district K-5 math director, again, Shelley Moran, was working with the CTLs there. Just for grade 2 and grade 3, and really looking at, do we need to reorder the math modules to ensure better access for kids at the beginning, at different points in the year? So one of the things that they were saying is that the first module that we were typically presenting was very, very heavy for kids. And so now they're going to start, like, say, for example, grade 2 with place value, something that, will kind of better orient kids into it without it sort of being so overwhelming. Talking about establishing math routines for September so that there'll be math routines that are consistent in every one of our classrooms, and then just ensuring that our math modules, regardless of what order they're presented in, are 100% aligned with the Massachusetts curriculum frameworks. And so I think this is just a really exciting slide for me. I was over at Marathon yesterday, and we went into a co-taught classroom. So there's a general educator, a special educator, and a paraprofessional in that room. And you can see the multiple modalities with which we are delivering these geometry lessons. And so in the bottom right, you see an anchor chart. And what we have in there are just some 3D shapes and lots of definitions. And so kids would, obviously get that lesson sitting in a rug. And then we have kids, you can see them sitting at the kiddie table. And what you probably can't see in there, the teacher has, and this is actually a special education teacher delivering a math lesson, a general education math lesson, which is really nice in terms of specially designed instruction. You want all of your educators to be able to deliver the content, whether they're gen ed or special ed. So our special educator is actually delivering this lesson. And what you don't see on there is that each kid has a shape, and they are looking to say, how many faces does the shape have? What's the name of the shape? How many edges? How many vertices? Can it stack or can it roll? So it's really nice that the kids are using all of those kinds of vocabulary words like vertices, edges, faces, and then obviously the names of the shapes too, and they can physically touch them. In the lower left, you can see that someone is getting sort of the same content, but that child is using toothpicks and marshmallows to build them. And again, talking about faces and vertices. And then you've got a kid who's doing an extension activity. That kid is actually doing some pretty complex multiplication in that setting, because once you've got it, we will let you keep going. So that was it. Poor Mrs. DeVoe, I kept saying, I just can't stop talking about this. It's so great.
One quick question. So we have a special education teacher teaching the general curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Is it focused on the special education children in that classroom, or is the special educator teaching?
So that's the beauty, that it doesn't have to be focused on just the special education students in that classroom. So the regular general education teacher could pull a small group that are the students on IEPs, while the special educator is actually delivering a general education lesson. We've done an awful lot of work with a consultant on what does it mean to have specially designed instruction, truly specially designed instruction, so that we look at that group of kids and say, what does each group need? And then you design a lesson so that you can make sure that each group of kids is getting what they need. And who delivers the lesson is just dependent upon how the lesson is designed for the day. Like at the table where there's the toothpicks and the marshmallows, there was actually a paraprofessional working with those students. So it's really great work, and I think that the district has probably needed this in special education for a long time. That particular consultant is going into retirement at the end of the year. So Dr. Zaleski's been interviewing people to replace her because I think we've gotten about halfway through the work. I would love to mention that Elmwood has a diversity, equity, inclusion. Their team they've got a poster contest going. The really great thing is if there are just under 600 kids at Elmwood, 262 students actually submitted entries. And the theme of this is the importance of peace in the school community. So peace is the theme of it. And pretty soon there'll be a team of educators who are going to be looking at who are our winners. Bonnie Gauss, who's the art teacher there, has taught, a whole bunch of different art concepts this year. So they'll also be looking for art concepts in the posters as well as sort of that equity and peace theme. And Renuka Abaraju, one of the teachers there, she's pretty amazing. She is taking home all 262 pieces. She's going to digitize them all so that everyone in the community can see every child's artwork, which is really lovely.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I want to have an Elmwood shout out today. I had the great fortune of being in Mrs. Carver's office when we had a student come down from room 101. She had written her own song about the Elmwood School and she performed it for us. So I told Mrs. Carver said, "Do you watch school committee?" She said, "No, but my mother does." So Charlie, if you're watching, thank you for that fabulous song today. Yeah, she was great. And then the Anatomage machine we'll talk about that later tonight too, with the HEF grant. And I want to thank Bethany Spinks for having written this grant. This is the coolest thing. If you have time to Google it and just watch a really quick YouTube video on it, this actually does virtual dissection. That machine, as you'll see, cost in excess of $50,000 and HEF has paid for that. But it is one of the coolest things. They are just like great big, like almost like the cadaver tables that just kind of come to life. And if you watch some of these videos, you'll see that, you'll see babies growing like as fetuses into like actual little children. You get to see, the functioning of the heart. I mean, anything in the human body is pretty fair game. So it's pretty cool for our kids. And that's it. That's just a smattering of cool stuff tonight and some water damage.
It's a roof update.
And
Some water damage.
Can I ask, so last week you sent the email about COVID and about how
Oh, yes.
it's progressing. And I was wondering if you had, any further updates on how it's going through the schools, et cetera.
I can actually take a look at the exact numbers for you if you give me 2 seconds. Okay. That didn't work so well. So at Marathon this week, we had 8 students, 7 staff. Elmwood, 9 students, 4 staff. Hopkins, 8 students, 1 staff. The middle school, 17 students, 4 staff, and the high school, 16 students, 4 staff. So while those numbers are still a little bit high, they're not
Yeah,
where they were
huge
in the last few
reduction.
weeks. So they do appear to
Yeah.
be coming down just a little bit. We did have a webinar with Desi this week who said that this will be the last of their collection. So when we get to the end of the school year, they won't be collecting case data from school districts any longer. And they will not be sending out the test kits any longer either. So next school year, it feels like things should be kind of getting back to, dare we say, whatever normal used to be. So
Did we have a lot of MCAS disruption with cases?
Yeah.
How did that go?
the one school that I think we worried about was Hopkins, and I did talk to the deputy commissioner and asked if there's a possibility to have extended the math window. And he had said if it were ELA, they could have done it, but with math, the state couldn't do it because Pearson's got to get those tests and start getting them graded if school districts are going to get their MCAS data back in a timely manner in the summer, so that we have information on kids before the start of the school year, like individual kids and even those kind of aggregate scores.
So what happens with kids who are unable to take the test due to COVID?
We're going to end up with a percentage participation rate, and I don't think it's going to be bad.
Okay.
I think we're going to be okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year we were in excess of 95% of our kids either, and last year you had the remote option as well, but
Right.
I thought it was very high participation for a year when we were in a crazy hybrid remote kind of in-person, hybrid, remote setting, so
Dark days.
And
it was dark.
just as a clarification, this is coming from my former school district in a different state. So I just want to understand. MCAS, if I think of them as the equivalent, are mostly about how the school is doing, right? Not how the individual students are doing. So even though you get individual student scores, the big deal is how is the school across the board doing in serving those students. Is that correct?
So I think when MCAS began, that really is where, it was sort of your report card. How did you do as a school district? And you can drill down even to individual teachers, for example. So if Nancy's a third grade teacher, there wouldn't have been anyone before her, but if I was a fourth grade teacher, I could look to see how my students grew under my teaching, from where they were in third grade. And what they'll do is they set up cohorts of your peers all across the state of Massachusetts. So every kid who got the same score in third grade, we would then look at what was their score in fourth grade, and then they kind of decile rank them. So we would say, oh, look, Carol Kavanaugh, on average, your kids were in the 72nd percentile, and we could feel pretty good about that.
So I guess my point is kids don't get penalized in any way for not completing an MCAS. It's not key to...
Oh, that is correct,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
In the
where
event
I
that a
wanna-
student was out with COVID,
just in
it would
case,
be,
a parent's stressed out there or something like that, it doesn't affect the student's performance, grades, anything of that sort.
yes. I think the advantage to having an individualized MCAS score for a kid or a family is you have a good sense of, like, where is your child?
Right.
It gives a little bit of data about, how your child's performing. But really, if a student had COVID and couldn't be in to take the MCAS test, that student should not be worried one bit.
Yeah. Just wanted to clarify.
Nor should their parents. So,
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay. And that moves us into the school committee chair report. Really just the warrants this week. The payroll warrant S22024 has been approved. Operating warrants 22044, 22045, 22046, 22047, and 22048 have been approved. They are in the packet that you can find in the drive. And then are there liaison reports? It's a liaison is the different groups that we each, and we'll go over that a little bit further down in terms of dividing up the work for the coming year. We don't have to decide tonight, but we will kind of talk about what people are interested in. So
Just a very quick, the ESBC2 is looking at getting the designers for the building.
oh, that's exciting.
Yes. So we're in the process of doing that.
Did you have anything?
I know that Dr. Kavanaugh sent out the HOP Coalition and Youth
Oh,
and Family
yes.
Services flyer, but there are 3 events coming up in June for families. On June 1st, there's the Mental Health Collaborative, Mental Health Literacy, a primer for parents. And on June 8th, Families for Depression Awareness, Family Stress Workshop. And on June 9th, Families for Depression Awareness, Teen Stress Toolkit for youth ages 14 to 24. And I think that flyer has gone out to the whole district, so just a heads up to look for that.
Those look really good.
Yeah.
It's good work. I had 2. One is the Marathon Fund Committee met this week, and the Marathon Fund is a town-wide committee that we do have representation on that takes money that is from the money the town receives from the marathon itself. And they, among other things, they give money for scholarships for graduating seniors. So they make the recommendations, and then the select board ultimately approves it. But they, out of their money, are able to make 6 scholarship recommendations. The winners of the scholarships will be announced at the senior recognition night. And then the exciting one, or I thought exciting, was LPAC, which is for our English Learners Parent Advisory Committee, had a family night and had actually a really nice group of people. They've also started a Facebook group to really get that group a little more active. And there were more families than I could count there. It was at least 15 and quite a few kids running around having a wonderful time. It was raining a little bit, so we moved from the playground into the cafeteria, but it was a great group and really nice to see that group has taken off. So That's all I have for liaison reports. So that brings us into new business, item A, which is donations for the middle school, high school music program, and that is you, Dr. Kavanaugh.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we have quite a few donations to our music programs, and I think this is something that we started a few years ago, and it's really taken off. It's so nice to see. So the first donation that I need for you to formally accept is coming from the Gallinek family. And I would list all of the items that they have donated, but there are far too many to do so. But the amount of their donation is $6,450. So I think that that sort of underscores just the incredible generosity of that family to our program. And those instruments are going to be used at the middle and the high schools. So
That's fabulous. So we need a motion then to approve the donation from the Gallinek family in the amount of $6,450.
So moved.
And then a second. So a motion by Jen and a second by Leah. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. And that, any opposed? I think that's unanimous.
No, it's
And then that
amazing.
brings us down to donations for the Hopkinton High School Band.
Okay, and again, this is a second donation from the Knazier family. We have 3 musical instruments and a music stand, and the estimated value of that is $600. And so, again, we just need you to approve that donation.
A motion to approve the donation from the Knazier family in the amount of $600 for the musical instruments.
A second.
So moved. You
Okay.
go for it.
So, a second.
Holly seconds, yeah.
Okay, so a motion by Jen and a second by Holly. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that is also unanimous. And then there's another donation for the high school music program.
Okay, and this one comes from the Scott family, and it's an alto sax. The estimated value of that instrument is $750, and so if you would, again, approve that donation, that would be great.
Motion.
I make a motion to approve that donation.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Jen and a second by Leah. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that is also unanimous. Just want to say thank you to the families that have made these donations. I remember this was started by a student, I think, a few years ago.
I was just going to ask if you remember the name of the
I
student.
feel like
'cause
his first
think it
name's
was-
Andrew.
With Andy
Yeah.
Keeling.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
yes,
exactly it.
Yes.
It was
That's
such an
right.
awesome
Yeah.
idea. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
and
Yeah.
gets instruments in the hands of students who might have difficulty.
Amazing music program.
Yep.
I saw their Pops concert the other night, which was incredible.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and a shout out too to Mr. Dodge. His jazz band got to the Hat Shell again this year.
Oh, yes, I
This
saw
is the
that.
second
That's
time that it's
so
happened,
cool.
so
Awesome.
it's quite an honor.
Yeah.
It is exciting. So that brings, this is a great night. All kinds of donations.
Really
and
good
and
things.
I
grants.
just want to thank you for making this our first night. Like, this is great. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. This is pretty awesome. We win.
So the HEF grant.
Yes, so the
which we
HEF
can
grant.
see.
And you can see the value of that in your packet. When I got this information from HEF, I was really just, so blown away that I got in touch with Bethany Spinks, who is the teacher who wrote the grant, and she is like on air about having this. She said she had seen them a couple of years ago, and then, with the pandemic and all, she really didn't have time to kind of sit there and thoughtfully write a grant that would be so compelling. But now she has done that, and HEF has been so generous. The dollar amount for that Anna Tomaj table is $52,775. They are enormously expensive, so it is so rare for a high school to have one. We are blessed to have that. And so thank you to HEF, and thank you to Mrs. Spinks for doing that. It's just incredible. So,
Very cool.
Those kids are so lucky.
yes, they are.
We did a
Really.
field trip to go.
Yeah,
Can
go
school
see it.
committee go and inspect the
amazing.
new equipment?
Yeah, I honestly can't wait to see it in person. It's going to be like, oh.
It is exciting.
So I move to approve the HEF grant in the amount of $52,775.
I'll second.
Motion by Leah, a second by Jen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes. It is unanimous, and that, again, very exciting, and I look forward to hopefully seeing it at some point.
Yes.
The next thing is the accept voting member for 2022-2023.
Okay, yes, Accept is one of the collaboratives that we belong to. And the board of directors for Accept are the district superintendents. And so I simply need for you to appoint me as the Hopkinton Public Schools voting member on the Board of Directors for the Accept Collaborative.
So moved.
Yes, second.
Okay, so motion by Amanda, a second by Jen. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
And congratulations, you are once again our accept, accept Board of Directors.
Now, with tech, there's a little more wiggle room. So. Any one of the school committee members or the superintendent could be the voting member for the Education Collaborative for Tech. I'm happy to take that on. I actually enjoy the meetings, and Liz McGonigal, who runs that collaborative, is always doing some very neat things, so I enjoy going.
And there's this a superintendent job alike there as well, right? That
There is.
The other thing is just, we do also in some years have had a secondary person from the school committee who's able to go, but the meetings are at like 8 o'clock on Fridays
In Walpole.
in Walpole.
And you have presented at those meetings as well. have you
Yes,
not? So,
yes.
So we can talk about secondary later, but I am happy unless anybody else was looking to do that, to have you do that. Okay, so is there a motion on that?
Yes, there is a motion. I move to have Dr. Kavanaugh represent us at Tech. Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, so motion by Jen, a second by Holly. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, so that brings us down to the school committee schedule and calendar for 2022, 2023. The one thing that is not on here that we had discussed, and we should look also at people's calendars if there are weeks that we know that we're not able to be here, but to potentially do like a retreat type of a thing where we can work on our goals for the year, to have that be something in the summer, and potentially kind of to line up with what you guys are doing for a little bit as well. Any thoughts about if you look at the calendar, you can see the yellow dates are the dates that are proposed. You can see that in December and January, we're very budget heavy in terms of needing additional meetings there.
Maybe it's switched. I have one question that I noticed. I'll pull it up for you a second. But in November, and you may have intentionally done this, November 3rd, there's no meeting and it got swapped to the 10th and then it kind of pushes forward. Is that because of the budget? Was that on purpose?
I
And
don't,
there's-
so Georgette actually put this together probably based on other years. The 3rd is election day. I don't know that would
Oh,
impact
okay,
us,
so
but it's
maybe
a
that's why.
Oh,
I don't know why we,
Because
Could be
we
a
are at the
primary.
MASC
oh, that's right.
conference.
That's,
Oh, that's the
Yes,
conference
the
date.
conference
Okay, there's a
that's-
good reason.
it's a joint conference that we are all invited to go, if people would like to go, that is those first week of November down on Cape Cod. So,
Okay.
So one thing I wish was in here,
Yeah.
because it helps me to understand just how busy a month will be. Like, for instance, in November, I know that there's the whole, like, setting the percentage for, like, we have a
Yep.
meeting with the select board usually sometime in November, right? And
we do in September, I think, as well.
right, so knowing those dates would also
Yep.
help me understand,
Right.
you know,
Right, so I can-
how busy my November is going to be. Like, for instance, I know I'm gone the entire week of Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So if we have the select board meeting that week, I'll probably be gone. And it was that week last year.
It was Thanksgiving week last week?
It was
okay.
like Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
I think it was either last year or the year before, where it was Monday or Tuesday of Thanksgiving week.
yeah.
So I will reach out to Amy to find out if they have the dates for when they want to do those joint meetings with us
Yeah, because that would be.
and
great.
have those added in, because you're right, there are things that sneak up because they're not just ours, they're things that we are asked to go to that are not in here.
And November was my other question about just the every other week sort of consistency, because we do miss 2 weeks in a row. It looks like the last week of October and the first week of November. Oh, sorry. I already brought that one up. Sorry. There was another one. I'm sorry. I'm looking at a different one. Yep. It's in April, I think. But again, there could be a good reason for it.
So
Yeah.
April, I think, is break
Where did
is
my
why.
notes go?
Yeah, we never had meetings on before.
Well, it works around. So, like, for example,
Oh, because in March, we have March is
Yeah.
a 5-week.
so
Month or
3:30,
5
4:30. Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
Yeah.
that would be 3 meetings in March, but then we would,
I believe what happened this year is we ended up meeting almost every week
you
anyway.
probably met every week, yeah, twice a week.
So that
yeah,
maybe
exactly.
didn't flag,
Okay.
in looking at this year's as that being, it is a long stretch and that,
And
Um,
if it's on purpose, great, but I
I
realize
don't-
that
I
would be
like
nice
that
too.
switch though, if we do the 30th and the 13th.
And then
Then
we
we-
miss vacation week
yeah.
and then
Yeah.
have the 27th.
I mean, I like that
so,
switch.
if we do but you mean adding the 30th in addition to the 2nd and the 6th, or do you mean adding, taking the 16th out?
Move this, or add the 30th, and then move the 6th to the 13th, so it keeps the every other week.
So we do 3 meetings in
It would be
March
3
and
meetings
2 in
March.
April.
Correct, but
Okay,
they're still
yep, that's
every
fine.
other week.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I
Yeah.
just want to make
Yeah.
sure.
And then one last question, because I don't think I've been here in a regular year
It's
ever.
been a long time since we've had a regular year.
July, August, June. Do we ever have like a month where we have less meetings or one longer meeting? Or,
So
I mean, if we're talking about a retreat, like
we have done that different years, different ways. The last 2 years, I think because of the intensity of COVID, we needed more meetings than
Right.
There were other years where we did a full day meeting.
Like two meetings.
It was
in the
like 2
summer.
meetings in the same day, kind of like we met, we had lunch in the middle, and then we met in the afternoon, and then we didn't meet again in the month of July, I think it was.
Right. I think we did one in July and one in August.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
2 half days.
Yeah,
whatever.
I think
Yeah.
so, something like that. Whatever's easier.
What do people prefer? And if we're adding in a retreat, we could add that in.
well, that was
To
my
piggyback
question.
off
if we're
of-
doing 2 meetings and a retreat, and then we're probably going to do a listening tour again, so that means
Yeah.
August
Right.
is going to be kind of busy. So I'm just trying to kind of look at the summer and
Yeah.
go, okay, is there somewhere where we get little breathers? Because the moment the fall comes, we're going to
I
be,
know.
once again, very intense.
So,
In my
I would
first 2 years, we did the 2 half day.
yeah,
I think we basically had 2 days of meetings that were
Right.
half days, and the rest of the summer was pretty quiet. And that worked.
And it
I
was
mean,
during the week, I think, too, right? Was it? It wasn't on
Yeah.
the weekend. It was a weekday, maybe.
It was weekday.
Which I don't know if that works for
Yeah.
job schedules and things like that. But
so let's offline,
Yeah.
have everybody look at your vacation calendars and pick which date, because we can discuss
Okay.
calendars and scheduling, that's exempt from, the
Okay.
public
Perfect.
meeting law. To figure out so that if we're gonna go to one, that everybody's able to be there just to the extent
Yep.
possible, because if we're making it a longer, bigger meeting,
right.
having somebody out is more,
And Dr. Kavanaugh, same for you. Like if you have summer plans that
which we hope you do.
I know. What days are you away? That's what we. Right.
I do like the idea of a longer workshop in the summer, particularly this summer, because we really want to do goals among the 5 of us, and we also want to align with the district 3-year plan that you'll be working on. So that takes time, like just to get in the meat of that.
Right.
We haven't really done it before, and we may or may not use a facilitator to help us through the process. So I love the workshop idea, like just having a more in-depth time when the business of the school district is quiet.
Yep.
So I'm in favor of that. So go back to this calendar. I'm trying to remember why in January we had a Monday meeting. Like I know that because of the dates that the budget was due, and because of our need to give people after winter vacation time to hear the presentation, have a public forum, and then have a vote. Like we had to shift those Januaries, and I don't know how that all plays out, but I don't see any Mondays this year. So I don't know that we need it.
That was the Monday was a one-off because, and I don't remember what the scheduling issue was.
Me either. And that could also shift
It
once we
blocked it
get more budget directions from the
That's
select
true.
board, but
That's true.
And it is three Thursdays in January for budget work, right?
Yeah.
It is because the 19th is a regular meeting. Or actually, no, the 19th is when we would vote the budget. The
Right.
12th will be the
Public.
public hearing, and the 5th will be the superintendent's recommended budget.
Okay.
Is that? Yep. So that should stay pretty steady even when we meet. The January should be okay, but
Right.
there may be some shifts we have to make with the select board. Okay. Okay. All right, any other thoughts before we take the rest offline?
Nope,
Okay.
looks good.
Let me go back to. Okay, so that brings us down then to the liaison rules for 2022 and 2023.
Exactly. And then who had it
Okay.
before,
Yeah, yeah.
and then
Right.
So in terms of liaison, I would like to stay ESBC2 member for
That
continuity purposes.
absolutely makes sense.
I would love to do policy again.
Okay, let me just hang on.
Policy.
I still have one policy that I want to see go through, but I can take a step back and give other people that opportunity.
Well, the committee votes on the policy anyway. I mean, it's just,
Yep.
Okay, so the procedures working group was not anything that we did this past year, so we can probably take that out.
yeah. And we
The,
didn't do anything with the website this year.
we didn't do anything with the website. I don't know, is there anything anticipated that we would need committee members for the website in the coming year? There's nothing I can think of for that either, so those would go out. The school committee meeting minutes review is the core function of that is the person ends up being who takes minutes during executive session and then gets those prepared into Georgette. Georgette actually is the one who takes all of the meeting minutes from our meetings. She watches them remotely. And then Leah, did when we were doing that last year, did they go from Georgette? Did you look at them at all before the meeting, or did they just go into the packet? The regular open session meetings?
Oh, they just went
Yeah.
into the,
So it's really just the executive session that does
Right.
the.
Yep.
And then nothing on procedures, nothing on the website working group. The Irvine Tadaro, we do need to have somebody on there, but I don't know that they met in the entire last year. But it is possible that they would meet. Irvine Tadaro, just for kind of historical context, is the property where Marathon School is. We own the adjacent property as well. It was bought, I think, at the same time. One of the potential thoughts in purchasing it was that we might want to put a school there someday. So that could come up as having some meetings, and we will want to have somebody who's definitely assigned to that. Tech voting member we do have in place. The Marathon Fund Committee is the fund group that gets to discuss the scholarships. They also discuss other uses for the town. They've given money for things like post-prom, things like purchasing things for the town-wide celebration days, stuff like that. It's fun because it's just giving money away.
it's a fun group to be in.
Right. The turf field oversight committee it actually is less than 2 hours a month. That is something I have been doing, and I'm happy to continue, or if somebody feels passionate about turf fields. It's really just meeting to go over whether, like there were some things early on with the turf fields where there needed to be policy in place about like cleats and people eating seeds and stuff on there, that they didn't want food and stuff on the turf itself. So having that in place, and then also making sure the committee works with Parks and Rec and with relevant town officials to do things like rental fees, stuff like that. The bridge has really not a functioning committee at this point. It primarily, when it was meeting, it was working with the youth commission to identify needs that needed to be met, try to connect them to resources. When it was initially founded, the idea was that it would be looking at policy as well, and that's why it became a school committee thing. It kind of defaulted because we had a very strong policy group for the past couple of years to really just looking at, like, people would come forward with needs and say, like, they needed masks for the marathon, they needed, things that we were connecting them with nonprofits in town. The shift has been to have them connect directly with nonprofits more so than through the bridge. So my recommendation, if that was something that I had been doing, would be that we look at whether or not we want to actually disband that group and have that people work directly with the nonprofits and then have the policies stay with the policy group. The Youth Commission, that is, Leah, you've been doing that.
Yeah, so the Youth Commission has been reorganizing under new leadership and such. So they've been actually looking at, they're going to go through their policies, they're going to review them, they're going to make sure that it still aligns with the goal of the commission. So right now, what it mostly has entailed is giving them a little bit of information on what's happening on the school committee, and then kind of following their evolution and then seeing where, as they move forward, we can support them or they can support us. So right now there isn't clarity as to exactly how we're helping them.
But that will be coming.
And that's usually a Monday night. Maybe they should, yeah. So it's a Monday night. Sorry, as
Yes,
someone
that's
who
okay.
works, that kind of thing is important. So
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So Youth Commission is usually Monday night, and Freedom Team is usually Monday at the beginning of the month. One meeting a year. Well, a year, a month. But I did want to discuss Freedom Team when we get there.
Okay. Planning board, we don't have an actual person right here, because that was something that I think Joe was doing before. But am I right? Did you do that previously? I don't know if you have any thoughts that you want to share about.
It was really just reading the planning board agenda ahead of the meeting, and if there was anything relevant to the school, I would attend and take notes, and every once in a while they'd see you in the audience and they'd be like, hey, there's a school committee member here, and then they'd, ask you a question or whatever. But it was, I would say probably every other meeting tended to have something. Maybe it was like one meeting a month you had to attend for sure. I guess it kind of depends on what's on there. It's coming down the pipeline for them, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was a hugely labor-intensive position until all of a sudden you got there and there was something big that had to do with a development or something like that, and then it got a little bit big. Yeah.
Okay, and then the appropriation committee and select board have traditionally been done by the chair. If somebody felt passionately about that, it does not have to be.
I think that makes sense,
To
particularly
keep it,
because the chair also does the budget advisory, and
Right.
it's also intertwined,
Yep.
that the chair
Yeah.
is the logical choice, I think.
Okay. That's same with capital improvements in the same thing. CPAC, I picked up at the end of the year. I think probably most people know what CPAC is. They are picking up steam, and they're getting ready to have some elections, and they have a family day coming up in June. I do very much enjoy that, but if somebody else feels passionate about that, I'm also happy to share off on that.
Yeah.
HOP has been, you've done that for
I've done
couple
that for,
years.
I am not able to do it now because of the timing of the meetings. They're still early. They're like 4:30.
Yeah.
But it is really just an opportunity to be a member of the committee that works on various prevention, substance abuse prevention activities in
Yeah,
town.
I ran it when I was on, worked with Denise. I ran that group when I worked with Denise.
Yeah. So
I could always take that over because I have familiarity with the board and,
that's awesome.
yeah. And I ran some programs for the high school related to drug prevention.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Freedom Team.
Yeah, so I had a question about this one because they have now organized as a nonprofit organization. So originally we were like questioning whether we should have an official liaison. We decided to because they were so closely tied to the police and the phone numbers going through the police, etc. But now they're a nonprofit organization, and I'm not sure that there's any like precedent for us having liaisons into.
Non-town. It's not a
Right.
town it's not overseen by the town anymore, it doesn't fall under the umbrella,
Right.
it's outside of.
And as much as I love going, and
Yep.
I will probably keep going, I don't know that it's, so that's what I wanted to bring up, is whether we should have an official liaison or whether it wasn't something that fit under our purview anymore.
I'm on the board of the Freedom Team, so I could help with that. Like, as of right now, we're not working directly with the schools on anything, but I think there will be opportunities for like collaboration on certain projects, right? Because we do Juneteenth, we have a Pride Parade on June 19th, which is also combined with our Juneteenth celebration. So we're inviting members of the community, but we don't necessarily need to collaborate with the school on it, if that makes sense.
What it makes me think of as a nonprofit would be kind of like the schools collaborate with like mental health collaborative a lot, but we don't have a liaison to them.
Right.
Is
Right,
that-
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
that makes
kind of
sense.
what I was
Yeah, there would
thinking.
be nothing from there that we would have to vote on, I wouldn't think.
Right.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't necessarily have official representation in the meetings as
Right.
the school committee.
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts on that, just in terms of precedent?
Yeah, I agree with you, Leah. I'm not sure that we have ever had a liaison to a nonprofit. So I kind of agree with, I mean, we certainly have great interest in the work that they're doing. You know, I think illustrated by many people at the table's participation with the group, but I'm not sure that we do need an official liaison to that group.
Okay. So then the Sustainable Green Community, I know they had reactivated this year. Joe was doing that before, so I don't have anything on how active they have been.
I don't know either. I heard that Amy Groves was getting it back
Yes.
into,
Amy
yeah,
Groves.
yep, but that's all, that's the extent of my knowledge right there. Yep.
LPAC really has just started going. I would like to continue with that if that's okay with people, because I just started with them.
Yeah.
The HTA stipend review was something specific to last year, while we were working on the contract. The calendar review committee, that doesn't have any carryover into this year, does it?
No,
I think we disbanded.
we did
Okay.
disband.
And the same with the bullying prevention and intervention plan, because we passed the plan. Oh, it says complete over to the right. My bad.
Good to mention that.
Okay, we don't have to vote on these tonight, because I do want people to have time to absorb them, and if you want to talk with anybody that's on the actual committee itself, you can certainly do that, but are there things that people want to just flag that you know you definitely want to do?
I'd love to do HOP.
Okay.
Did you talk about the campus planning? Are we still gonna do a
So,
separate campus planning committee from the ESBC?
yes, that is supposed to be a parallel. I don't know how I skipped over that, except that my eyes just jumped over it, I think.
And I know that Compass is expecting us to have that
Right.
group because they had the architects come. So if you wanted to bid on the job for the Elmwood job, today was the day to do your walkthrough if you were an architectural firm. There were probably 20, 25 firms out there, so it was kind of a mob scene, which is wonderful. I mean, that's what you want, is that kind of competition. But Compass did say then that there would be sort of concurrent planning happening because part of their role would be to think about what was going to happen with the Elmwood school. Would it be a 2-3 school or a 2-3-4 school? Where would you build? So those were the kinds of things they're thinking about. But we also have to think about the ripple effects of, if you have a 2-3-4 school, how does that impact Hopkins in the middle school and the high school? So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that. I'll help with anything. I wrote down a list of things, but only because I wasn't sure if there were already folks who wanted to stay in that role or wanted to ditch that role or however it was. So I'm happy to jump on campus planning if you need someone in that role. I'll throw
I
myself
was
in
the person, because we didn't get up and running, I never did anything on it. I'm not emotionally attached to it. I think it's really important work, but
Okay.
it'll eventually come back
But
here
if you
anyway,
want to
so
hang
that's-
on to it,
I-
I'm not. I'll do anything on here. My list is long.
I think you just bought that one.
Okay, all right. Throw my name in there. And if you need an alternate for, I don't know if you do have 2 people for ESB.
We do need a second person
And
for
if you already
ESBC.
have someone, great, but if you want an alternate, I'm happy to do
That
that.
would be great.
Yep.
we are definitely going
Okay.
to need an alternate for that. I don't see if there's anybody else that really wanted to do campus planning. Could we have two people
Oh, I
to have an alternate for that? Is
I
that
would
something-
love to be an alternate for that, yeah.
It feels like with campus planning, ESBC2 is going to be very closely tied to,
Yeah.
to
Right.
it. So we're going to
Yeah.
have
Makes sense.
to have conversations a
Right.
lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's great. I'm excited that that work is getting going. Okay, so I will have those plugged in for the next time, the ones we discussed, and we can discuss the rest of them
Sure.
when we come back in 2 weeks. Let me just,
FYI, policy review group tends to meet at 7 a.m. for anyone who wants to.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm,
so-
I'm happy to get back into that
Yep.
too.
and I know
But that might
Amanda,
not be able to happen because I actually have to be at work at 7:30. So, yeah. But anyway.
Poor Carol Dr. Kavanaugh had to deal with me a couple of times being like, "Are you coming?" I'm like, "Oh no."
Yes.
that is a more challenging time for me, just because I'm trying to get kids out the door still.
Right.
Well, we could be flexible. We don't have to do 7 a.m.
If you wanted to meet at like 2:45 in the afternoon,
So I will leave that to discussion between, I know Amanda
Fantastic,
definitely
yeah.
wants to do it. We do have a
Yes,
second person that
that's
we
totally
need,
fine.
but we need a second person.
oh, all right. I'm happy to do
So
that too.
we can come back to that piece. The next item on the agenda, just to shift out of that, is the school committee protocols and best practices for effective school committee meetings. It's essentially our norms, a little bit of a longer. I think is important to highlight and call out here today, but I also thought that might be something that we would want to work on if we wanted to make any changes to it when we do a summer retreat, along with, in tandem with the goals. I don't know, other thoughts?
Yeah, obviously you spent a lot of time on this because this is way bigger
it-
than
it
anything I
is
saw
big-
in my 3 years on before. So,
This is an MASC.
okay, that's
So-
actually great. Okay,
Yes,
good.
this is an MASC base that we used.
Yeah,
So,
it looks. I think it looks. I mean,
We did not write this. We were not.
You can take
We selected
total credit
pieces
for it.
of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
we tweaked.
Yeah, I mean, I think it looks fantastic, especially when I
yeah.
think about what we had before. And you know, it can be a bigger discussion, but I think you don't have to change a
also just
thing,
say,
and I would
I'm-
be okay with
Yep.
it. Exactly. I did have one little question, and it's not a. Hold on, I wrote it down, so I have to find. This is kind of minutia, so it doesn't. Oh, annual planning calendar is in there, and I was just curious, like, is that the sort of like when the budget review process is, and when? What does that mean?
All right, this is in the school committee best practices,
And if you don't want to talk about it tonight, we don't
I
have
know,
to. It's
I've
cool.
just,
I'm not.
what page is it on?
Hold on. Let's see. It's not finding it. Give me a second.
Yeah.
The superintendent or designee will share an annual planning calendar.
I think Georgette has
That's
that.
Georgette does that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Yep,
Yeah,
that's
it's
exactly.
number
Oh, there it is. Number
4
4. That's
in how we
probably the second
communicate.
page. I know. Which I think is a great idea. I think it's kind of good to, and I think maybe it was something we talked about a long time ago too.
Yeah.
Sort of the ebbs and flows of what has to be done at what points in the year.
The
Yes.
rhythm.
If that's what that means, and that's a
believe
great.
that's-
yeah.
It's a great idea.
Because it definitely helps. There is a rhythm
Yeah.
to it. Georgette has that.
All right.
I had a minor suggestion to an amendment, but I don't know if you want to talk about this now or
No,
not.
go ahead, if you have something, put it out.
Just an expansion of number 8 under how we communicate. So number 8 was the school committee will work to create an environment of free and civil debate, allowing for passionate disagreement on issues and not striving for homogeneity, but for solutions to the matters at hand. And I just added to that, I'm just suggesting, in the course of such debate, members agree to respect individual differences and acknowledge a unified commitment to best serve all students, despite disagreements on how that should be accomplished.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
I like that. Can you,
I have it. Yes, I can send that.
it sounds nice the way you said it.
Do you want me to read it again, or are we going to vote on this tonight, or are we going to come back?
So if we don't have substantial changes we want to make, I'm comfortable voting on it. My the only reason I was saying to put it off was if there were substantial changes.
Yeah,
So I'm comfortable with whatever people are comfortable with.
I like that
Which
addition. It's very
I definitely like adding that piece.
yeah.
So one question as I look at the norms.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about self-evaluation too. I like that kind of thing. I know I'm weird. But
Yep.
if we have that day-long thing, would we then work on the self-evaluation maybe with a facilitator? Because it's really hard to
Yeah.
set up good self-evaluation metrics by yourself without sort of somebody to help you figure out how you would hold yourself accountable to them and make sure that they're actionable.
So I
Right.
would like to do that piece, it kind of tied with our goals of how we're going to evaluate ourselves and to be able to, so that coming out of that retreat, that we would have that all nicely done with a facilitator so that when we get into the fall and we're doing the work of all the important budgets and things that come forward, we're not having to go back to create this piece. We've already
Right.
got it, and then we can pick out mid-year checkpoints to look at things.
Yep.
That
Yes.
all right. So do people want to?
Feel free to read.
People want to make it to vote to adopt this tonight or hold on it?
In the absence of a vote, does this does this serve as our sort of set of norms, de facto norms until we vote?
Until we vote something different, this one still stands in place, I believe. We have done it later in the summer because in years when we've made significant changes. But if we feel good with what we've got,
Yeah.
I don't see any reason not to.
Yeah, I'm comfortable either way with your addition. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable.
I'm good with
Would somebody like to make a motion to, it probably says to, it's not CBD, so I think the motion would be to adopt the school committee protocols and best practices as amended. Make that motion?
Yes.
Okay, so
I would
motion
so
by,
move.
motion by Leah, is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Second by Holly, all those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Any noes? Okay, great, so that passes. And that brings us to old business. We have no old business on the agenda, so that brings us actually directly into items by consensus.
Okay, so as superintendent, I recommend the committee approve the items by consensus as outlined in your agenda.
Is there a motion on that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Leah, second by Jen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
And so that would bring us, actually, we are not going back into executive session.
These are different.
Oh, these are different
minutes.
ones. Yes, actually, they are.
So
That,
we,
so yes, so that was Georgette made us feel like we were all the way through. So in that case, I would seek a motion to enter back into executive session to comply with or act under the authority of MGLC 30A 21A3, specific to the review of executive session minutes for the meetings of December 2nd, 2021, December 9th, 2021, December 16th, 2021, January 4th, 2022, January 6th, 2022, February 15th, 2022, February 17th, 2022, March 17th, 2022, April 28th, 2022, May 5th, 2022, and May 12th, 2022, and to adjourn in executive
I
session.
think she wants us to catch up.
I think we're getting a definite A motion by Leah and a second by Amanda. We'll do a roll call for that. I'll start with you, Holly.
Aye.
Jen?
Yes.
Leah?
Aye.
Amanda?
Aye.
And I am also an aye. We are adjourning into executive session at 8 o'clock.